Welcome back to News Around, the sanctuary where we do not simply consume the headlines, but rather, we sit with the human hearts breaking and healing behind them. We are here to navigate the grey areas of fame, love, and the crushing weight of reality. Today, we are opening a dossier that is as fragile as it is explosive. It is the moment a private plea from Barış Arduç set off an invisible earthquake in the world of Elçin Sangu. We are not here to paint halos or horns. We are here to understand the anatomy of a crisis. What happens when the wreckage of a past love collides with the terrifying duty of a future life? Can a new heartbeat patch the fractures that grief has left behind? Before we step into the dim room where this secret meeting took place, we invite you to anchor yourself in our community. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat of these deep investigations. And for those who wish to support the soul of independent storytelling, we urge you to click the join button below. Your support allows News Around to tell the stories that others are afraid to touch. Now, let us witness the collision of regret and hope. In the theater of celebrity, we are accustomed to grand gestures played out under the glare of strobe lights, public apologies, red carpet reunions, and carefully curated social media posts. But the event that has redefined the trajectory of Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu's lives did not happen on a stage. It began without cameras, without stylists, and without the applause of a cheering crowd. It unfolded in the suffocating quiet of a private room, where the air was thick with a history you cannot filter for Instagram. In that dim, ordinary space, stripped of every trapping of the celebrity moment, Barış stood across from the one person who knows the truth of the wreckage better than anyone. The woman who has protected Elçin her entire life, her mother. Sources close to the family describe the atmosphere as almost unbearable. This was not a polite, tea-time exchange between a prospective son-in-law and a seasoned matriarch. This was a collision of two tectonic plates. Barış, usually the epitome of easy charm and confident swagger, was unrecognizable. His jaw was tight, grinding against words he was terrified to speak. His eyes were rimmed with the sleeplessness of a man who is haunted by the future. He did not arrive as the matinee idol fans photograph in airports, he arrived as a man consumed by a visceral dread. Standing before a mother known for her iron spine and vigilant love, he made no attempt to defend his mistakes. He did not try to airbrush the past or offer excuses for the silences that had grown like ivy over the walls of their relationship. Instead, he spoke with the containment of a tremor racing through the earth before the ground splits open. He spoke as a frightened father. He told her that for the future of this child, a little life not yet born, but already loved with a ferocity that surprised him, he believed they had to find a map back to each other. He confessed that beyond the bruised pride and the faulty words, beyond the chasm that had opened between him and Elçin, there was a heartbeat coming into the world that deserved calm. He argued that this child should not inherit their distance. He spoke of the panic that keeps him awake at 3 a.m., the haunting image of a child growing up with one parent on each side of a canyon, learning the language of separation before they learn to speak their own name. The impact of his words was inevitable, but the reception was not simple. People close to Elçin's mother say that when she goes quiet, it is not a sign of yielding, it is a sign that the storm is internal. She had seen it all. She was the witness to the long nights her daughter spent staring into the dark, the messages left unanswered, the worry that turned the mornings grey. She had watched her red-haired girl, that flame of a woman who can usually laugh off an entire room, try to contain a sadness she didn't want the world to see. And now, here stood the man at the center of that sadness, asking for permission to build a bridge over a gorge that had nearly swallowed them both. He vowed to face the parts of himself he had avoided for years. He spoke without theatrics, his voice breaking at the edges, cracking under the weight of his own sincerity. He told her mother that he wanted a chance to try again. Not to rewind time to the golden days of their fictional romance, but to start a hard, honest, unglamorous chapter. He proposed that they could work on it, step by fragile step, because the little one shouldn't have to pay the price for their wreckage. This brings us to a moment of profound ethical difficulty, and we need your voice in this conversation. Is it noble to ask for another chance solely for the sake of a child, or is that a burden too heavy to place on a relationship that is already fractured? Is a home stitched together by duty still a home, or is it just a beautiful cage? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And if this careful, empathetic storytelling is something you value, please like this video so more people can join this vital discussion. The conversation that followed was described as a dance of sharp edges. Elçin's mother was not easily moved by his eloquence. She did not shout, and she did not perform outrage. She simply placed her memories between them like heavy stones. She reminded him of the days when the clock crawled and fear would not let her daughter sleep. She spoke of the solitude Elçin had endured while the cameras were off and the gossip was loud. She laid out the cost of his past actions, not to hurt him, but to ensure he understood the price of the ticket he was trying to buy. Yet, Boris kept returning to the same plea, reshaping it, repeating it in different words. Let us try again for the little one who did not ask to be born into a storm. Here lies the trap, and the tragedy. Coming back together is not as simple as pushing two puzzle pieces into place. It is an operation without anesthesia. It means owning every misstep, addressing everything messy and tender and broken. It means understanding that even if you succeed, the new version of us will never be the old one. That truth chills everyone involved. Because what sounds like sacrifice for love can also sound like a life sentence if the heart is not ready. When the talk ended, nothing felt resolved. There was no dramatic decision, no tearful embrace. There was only a request for stillness. Elçin's mother asked for time. She asked that no pressure be placed on her daughter, who was already carrying the physical and emotional weight of the pregnancy. She asked for quiet in a world that rarely offers it. And when the door finally closed, Boris lowered his eyes the way a person does when they have told their absolute truth and must now wait for the jury's verdict. He left with the heaviness of someone who knows apologies are not a magic key that unlocks the future. In the days that followed this secret summit, the energy began to bleed out. Energy is hard to hide, even when words are unspoken. Elçin withdrew further from the public view. This was not a retreat of cowardice, but a retreat of preservation. Everything felt too loud. At first, she didn't ask for a play-by-play of the meeting. She wasn't ready. She was a woman caught between two powerful tides. The biological instinct to shield her child and the trauma response of fearing the same blade that cut her before. The word reconciliation had become dense and complicated for her. It was no longer a fan-made fantasy or a scriptwriter's plot device. It was a word with jagged edges, a door that opened to rooms she wasn't sure she could walk through without bleeding again. Friends who love her describe a delicate season of introspection. Her body is changing, hormones are roaring, and the media is repeating rumors that bear no resemblance to her reality. Every step feels like walking on glass. If she says yes to trying again, she chooses a road of rebuilding, a road that is long, tiring, full of therapy, patience, and the swallowing of pride. If she says no, she accepts that her baby will grow up between two homes, navigating a different map from the one she once dreamed of. Each path asks for a sacrifice. Meanwhile, Boris has chosen a path that surprises many, the path of radical silence. There are no interviews. No carefully staged social posts to manipulate public opinion. He has let the chatter burn itself out. To those closest to him, he repeats a single truth over and over. He cannot bear the thought of losing his child before he has even held that tiny hand. He insists he is ready to evolve. He is ready to apologize without placing a deadline on forgiveness. He is ready to face the parts of himself that fame cannot protect, to unlearn his ego and relearn humility. He wants to take responsibility without theatrics, to show up consistently and quietly, even if the cameras are pointed away. And what about the court of public opinion? As always, it splits down the middle, a mirror of the conflict itself. One side sees a man who wants to embrace fatherhood with both arms and is brave enough to fight for his family. The other side sees a burden being placed on a woman who has already given enough, a pressure she shouldn't have to handle in her most vulnerable hour. The comment sections boil with debates, the think pieces multiply, but the living truth, her choice, his resolve unfolds far from the noise, inside a heart that cannot outsource its answer. When Elçin finally sat with her mother and heard the precise wording of Boris's plea, there were no outbursts. No cinematic tears crashing down. She grew quiet, pulled into a space only she could inhabit. She understood that his sentence, for the sake of the child, wasn't a bouquet, it was a weight. Hope and fear were braided together in that request. Duty and longing were knotted tight. It was a promise and a warning at once. To choose either path would be an act of immense bravery. To pretend it was simple would be a lie. And now we arrive at the heart of the matter. That one idea, do it for the baby, has stopped being a plea and has become the axis around which their entire world turns. This is a story about love and guilt, about dread and courage. It is a story without a guaranteed fairytale ending, where no one is spotless, and where a child not yet here has already become the center of gravity. Sometimes love comes in fireworks and grand declarations. Sometimes it comes as a last, desperate attempt to rescue what can be saved from the fire. Sometimes it arrives as the toughest examination a heart will ever take. Elçin stands before a fork in the road. Does she follow the echo of a love that still glows somewhere beneath the rubble of their past, or does she follow the protective instinct that says healing comes first, even if it means healing apart? Can two people build a warm future if the first brick laid is obligation? Or can obligation evolve into devotion if both choose it every single day? Their story reminds us that reality is messier than any script they've ever delivered on set. Off camera, there are no retakes. There are only choices, and the courage to live with them forever. Barış Arduç has laid his heart and his fears on the table, not for the world to see, but for the one family that matters. Now, the silence stretches, waiting for an answer that will define 3 lives. We here at News Around will continue to hold space for this story, honoring the complexity of their journey. What would you do in Elçin's place? Does the child change everything, or does it change nothing if the trust is gone? Share your perspective in the comments. Thank you for trusting News Around with these delicate narratives. If you haven't already, please subscribe and click that bell icon. And remember, clicking the join button is the best way to ensure we can keep bringing you these deep, exclusive insights. Until next time, remember that the quietest moments are often the loudest.